I'd like to welcome everybody this evening to the basic meditation class. Having my usual problems with the technology, but there are plenty of names I recognize and some lovely people I don't know so well. Anyway, good to have you all at the class. We're all on mute for the moment. When it gets to questions and discussion at the end, everybody will be unmuted. Meantime, if anybody has anything they want to discuss, please put it in the chat box. I've got one eagle eye on the meeting chat box. Feel free to send anything through. And there again, if you're having some sort of communication problem, please send it through. I may not be able to help, but you never know. So do feel free to send anything through in the chat box. As I say, there will be an opportunity for discussion and all of that at the end. And if you've got any topics, there again, and you know what they are, pop them in the chat box, and I'll try and get around to helping. What about the format of the class? It's going to be different this week. Usually what happens when I'm leading it, well, we just crack on with it. I give a few tips on meditation, and we have a little break after about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, sit some more, and then around about, you name it, 25 to 8, something like that, then we'll open things up for discussion. I'd like to do something a little bit different this evening. This comes about as follows, because last week, Ajahn Subhaddo was here, and something cropped up there, which was very interesting, and which I think it's worth exploring more tonight. But before we even begin, because it's kind of central to what we're doing this evening. See, when we do this mindfulness practice, which I guess is what it's mainly about this evening, we use a little, well, there's a little object, a little anchor we usually use. And the point about what I want to say this evening, it can be one of many things. Usually we use, or at least I encourage using, the sensation of the breath, but there are plenty of other possible meditation objects. Or of course, you may not need a meditation object at all to be mindful. Anything that, I'm going to say anything goes. Anything that comes into consciousness can be noticed and then let go of. For me, mindfulness is all about noticing what's going on into the mind, what's coming into consciousness, but not clinging on to it, being able to let go of it. And that's, for many people, me included, that's the most difficult part. You know, anybody can, we're all pretty aware of what's happening in our minds, the emotions and thoughts, actually, but letting go of all of that stuff is something else altogether. Well, that's part of the practice. Okay, so what should be our meditation object? When I say choosing the object of meditation, I mean just that. We're doing mindfulness practice. What's going to be our little anchor, our little reference point, our little refuge, call it what you like. I'm not talking about different styles of meditation. I may touch on metta practice. I probably will, but I'm not going to say anything about cemetery contemplations. I said that because if you look at the Buddha's teachings on mindfulness, Satipatthana Sutta, you will see all manner of mindfulness practices, all including actually contemplating mortality. Contemplating mortality. But I don't. But we're not. I don't want to encourage that tonight. Okay, just simple mindfulness practice. And I want to start off by repeating what I've just said, actually, which is what we use as our meditation object, what we use as our little anchor or reference point, is up to everybody here. And the things I'm going to say essentially are based upon my own experience. But I'm sure there are other folks here who've been using different meditation objects. And actually, it'd be great when we get to discussion at the end, or maybe even, before that, if you want to ping something through in the chat box, that'd be great. Share that with with other people here. Anyway, let's think about different meditation objects and why we might choose one rather than the other. And so for me, I guess the main one is Pali term anapanasati, mindfulness of the in-breath and the out-breath. Mindfulness of just the physical sensation of breathing in and breathing out. And you can't really go wrong with it. Right? I haven't heard of people, people don't go crazy with it. Maybe, by the way, people discover they shouldn't be meditating at all or be doing another sort of practice altogether. That's fair enough. But if you're just practicing being aware of the sensation of the breath, and when the mind wanders, bringing the attention back to the breath, that's okay. That's pretty good. And it's a very, very simple practice. I know we like to try and complicate it. You can't, and it's always there from the moment we're born to the moment we die. The breathing. So why not use something as simple as that? And it's a calming meditation. If you sort of go on a meditation retreat and you're just doing that, after a bit, I don't know what a bit is, after a while, mind can get very, very peaceful, very calm. Peace of mind. That's nice. The other side of that coin is it's not stimulating at all. Really isn't stimulating. I mean, assuming we have not got we haven't got a cold or we haven't got anything like that. If it's just regular breathing, it's not at all stimulating. If you want to use a pejorative term, it's really rather boring. And that's a bit of a challenge for the monkey mind, because the monkey mind likes to be stimulated and likes to go ferreting around looking for memories and plans and hopes and fears and all the rest of this stuff, right? But it's not. And that's the practice, actually. Just watching the monkey mind go on its travels and saying, "Hey, wait a minute, there we go again," letting go. So to do anapanasati, mindfulness of the breath, the real effort, in my opinion, I can only speak from my own experience, is the effort to let go and just gently, non-judgmentally guide the attention back to the feeling of breathing. And then we start making things more complicated. Where should we notice the feeling of the breath? And there again, you tell me. I usually use around the nostrils. Other people might use upper lip. Other people might use sensation in the belly or anywhere else, where you can just feel the rhythm of the breath, just following the rhythm of the breath, in breath, out breath, in breath, out breath. And it requires developing this characteristic of letting go. Now, notice it's not heavy-duty concentration. It's not like, I've got to nail my attention to the breath come hell or high water. Then you get a headache like that. So please don't do that. This is all about leading to the cessation of suffering, not creating more suffering. Okay. It's concentration in the sense that you let go of everything else, and the default position is the feeling of the breath, the rhythm of the breath. And it's not special breathing, it's not yoga, pranayama breathing or whatever. You're not trying to control the breath. It's interesting because although it's not stimulating, it's always changing. Sometimes deep, sometimes shallow. Okay, we just notice that. We're just noting, the rise and fall of the breath, following the breath through. Ideally, maybe all the way through from the beginning of an in-breath to the end of an out-breath, And then people say, well, should we be counting along with the breath? Some people say we should, count. And by that, I mean breathing in or out 1, in or out 2, in or out 3. So you count along with the breath up to 10. Okay, then you go back to the beginning again, 1. And it's a tough challenge because if you lose track after 3.5, you got to go back to the beginning. If you lose track after 9, you got to go back to the beginning. Do you want to do that or not? You can do that. And I would recommend doing that if the mind was particularly scatty. Okay, but why add the count when you don't need to? If the mind is okay, you can just breathing in, breathing out. You don't need to count. Don't need to count. And so don't complicate it. Now, possibly because it is quite a refined practice. There's not a lot going on. There's a bit, and it can be one can be, because not a lot is going on. We may be vulnerable to all sorts of uncomfortable memories or whatever coming into consciousness. Okay, that's possible. We meditators are very vulnerable. You know, and the practice is, notice and let go. But that's easier, much easier said than done. So maybe a different meditation object would help. One where the meditation object is, what's the word I'm looking for? Chunkier, more solid. It's more there than such a refined, fine meditation object as the sensation of the breath. What about the body scan? Now, there again, in my own practice, and Ajahn Barry does this as well, you just sweep the attention through the body, noticing different sensations in the body. And if I was doing it, I'd suggest first of all, heavy sensations, big sensations, like the feeling of sitting on the chair, or your feet on the floor, or wherever. And you can just scan the body from top to toe, toe to top, just noticing quite small sensations as well on the way. A bit of tension in the shoulders and the pulses beating away in the chest and all of that. And that's a very good practice, by the way, just scanning the body. So one thing we could do is, as I say, I use that typically, and I'd encourage that, on a normal evening, to spend a few minutes doing that. Ajahn Barry would spend the whole of a 25-minute period doing that. So that can be the meditation object. Forget just using the breath as an anchor, but sensations in the body, systematically scanning sensations in the body. Not systematic. Or just let the attention rest on, let the anchor be just a point in the body. For example, the feeling in I'm just doing it now, the palm of my right hand, as I, got one hand on the other, direct the attention to that point and just hold it there. That's another way of doing it. So either scanning the body, up and down, different sensations, or just let the attention rest on one particular sensation. That's another way we can do that, as an alternative to mindfulness of the breath. Here's another one. Because we think, most of us anyway, think verbally, why don't we use words as the meditation object? And that's what I'd call a mantra. I'd call a mantra silent words that we just repeat silently to ourselves. And if you like, that distracts, that makes it more difficult for thinking to kick in. It's not that thinking is wrong at all, but we want to let go of that back to the meditation object. So make the meditation object a mantra. Like what? Well, in the Thai forest tradition, just use Buddho, 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 which just means awake, awake. Oh, you say that to yourself. Or peace, peace, peace. Or Nam Myoho Renge Kyo in the Nichiren tradition. Or Om Mani Padme Hum Tibetan. Don't ask me what some of these things mean. This doesn't matter. Don't forget, I'm looking for an anchor. Which we're going to call a mantra. One I use, now this is where I'm a bit sneaky because I like a lot of metta practice, loving kindness practice, compassion practice as well. I'm very sneaky. So when my mantra, if you want to know what my mantra is, which I sometimes use, I link it to the breath. And on the in-breath, I say to myself, may I be well. And breathing out, a wish, may others be well. May I be well. May others be well. So two things are going on now. There's a sensation of the breath. I'm aware of the breath. There's also the inner speech, the mantra. May I be well. May others be well. And I like that. I'm just telling you what I like in a sound. Now, talking about sound, here's another one, which sounds a bit weird and a bit exotic, but quite a lot of us use it, actually, which is the sound of the silent mind. When there's no external sound at all, and I'm not creating any, then you can just try this for a moment now. Just try it. Just listen to the sound of the silent mind. Anything there or not? I don't know. But with a bit of practice, one can pick up, I would describe it almost as an electrical sound. Other people talk about it in quite different ways. It's not tinnitus. A friend of mine, who's a long-time meditator, used to suffer from tinnitus, doesn't suffer from tinnitus now, and she knows the difference between tinnitus and the sound of silence. Yeah, there it is. And once you start doing this practice, there again, it's like the breath, pretty much. It's there kind of all the time. So right now I'm talking to you and I can pick up the sound of silence. When I'm sitting meditation myself, I might be simultaneously aware of the breath, and there's that little ringing sound in the background as well. And that is good, again, because to think, I personally would have to make an effort to think through that. It's a very calming practice, the sound of silence. There again, it's not stimulating or anything like that at all. And it's not particularly mystical. People, when this was Ajahn Subhaddo was really encouraging this initially, and to begin with, people would say, it's make a big deal about it. You know, it's the music of the spheres or whatever it is. And it doesn't matter what it is. I'm quite happy to believe it's kind of background white noise in here. It doesn't matter what it is. It's a very handy meditation object. Very handy meditation object. And here's another one, getting very physical again now. Now these are mala beads or rosary. It doesn't matter what you call it. Here we are, some beads, and there are usually 108 of these little beads on the string. 108 little, usually. Now, every time I ask somebody who knows more about Buddhism than I do, they always come up with a different answer. So it doesn't matter why it's 108, and it needn't be 108. There we are. And you can use it as a meditation object. And there again, you can use it. It's almost like setting a timer. You know, what you got to do is you've got your beads. There's a little tassel here, right? That's a little tassel, and then there's just plain beads. And you just flip a bead. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. And the meditation object is the sensation. Look, no, you can't. I'm noticing the feeling of my finger and thumb on the bead. Put across. Bead, put across. Bead, put across. Or you can link it to the breath. In breath and out breath, a bead across. In breath and out breath, bead across. Bead. It's just giving the mind a bit more to do. So there's less, there's not such a big gap. There's not such a crack for other thinking activity to creep into the story. It will do, but you can bring it back to the next bead. And what you do is keep going all the way around until you get back to this one on the end. However long that takes, you can do it several times if you want to. So beads and linking it to the breath. And then, of course, there's just standing and walking. So that's particularly good if you're uncomfortable during a period of meditation, like now, for example. Right? If you feel embarrassed about it, got your camera off, nobody can see what we're doing. Stand up, and then be aware of the feeling of standing. Scan the body, standing. Notice different sensations in the body. Stand and bring attention to the breath. Or walking meditation. Can't really demonstrate that here. But just walking up and down where the meditation object becomes, if you like, the footfall, the sensation of the foot on the floor and the activity of raising the foot, just physically. The attention is on the sole of the foot. And the sensation is one of lifting the foot, pushing it forward, and lowering the foot, and notice that sensation. You take steps forward and back. That's another physical back to the body, mindfulness of the body. So there are all these different methods, different meditation objects. And I'm not for one moment suggesting, you try one after the other this evening. But there's no harm in just exploring all of this, exploring this. And just notice that what you want really is two things. I mean, the practice of mindfulness is something that the Buddha encouraged his monks and nuns to cultivate during absolutely everything they did during the day. This attitude of just being aware and letting go, of noticing what we're doing and letting go. So you can bring it in our lives to our ordinary everyday movement. There again, I'm sitting meditation. At the end of a period of meditation, I shall ring a bell. When I ring the bell, I shall do that. Don't have to do that. But I do that. There again, I'm aware there's an intention to lift my right arm. I feel the arm moving, the muscles in the arm. Yeah. Feeling the contact in the hand. And one's aware of the physical sensation. All the time, one's bringing the attention back to a meditation object. This is moving meditation. And I guess I never really got into Tai Chi, but Tai Chi is a form of moving meditation. And this is a skill, as I say, one can develop for taking around with us at all times during the day, when we're doing things and meeting people, and bringing this awareness to us. The other aspect of this practice is to remember that mindfulness, and so the meditation object, is a means to an end. We're not trying to become accomplished meditators. We're just developing this quality of noticing and letting go. And so the interesting thing is just to be aware of awareness itself. There's this difference, which I think all traditions in Buddhism, like to point out, the difference between the mind and the object of the mind. And really, this is all about exploring the mind, the true nature of the mind. What's the mind really like? And the mind can be aware of awareness itself. Isn't that interesting? There's no particular object. So there's no need to have a meditation object. It's very helpful, but there's no need to have it. Remember this teaching I picked up at another class in the Buddhist Society altogether, where somebody said, here's a piece of homework. Every day for a week, go and sit down in your room, see what happens. That's it. There was no guidance as to a meditation object. Just go down, sit down, see what happens. That is good practice. It doesn't involve a meditation object at all. That's enough talk. Let's do some meditation. Already somebody has sent something through in the chat box, and I will we'll talk about it at the end if you don't mind, whoever sent it through. But thanks for that one, and keep them coming if you like. So that's enough on from me for the moment, except to say, just compose the body. Remember that mindfulness, however we do this form of practice, is about noticing and letting go. To notice, we have to be alert. We don't have to be sitting upright in a chair, but a posture that helps. Alert, pretty upright posture. Okay. More difficult to be alert when we're lying down, in my experience, but can be done. Okay, alert, but also a relaxed posture. So a comfortable posture, but not one that's so comfortable that we go to sleep, because then the alertness disappears as well. Alert, relaxed posture, eyes half closed or fully closed. We're turning the attention inwards. I would encourage just checking out the body, doing a quick overall mini scan, noticing sensations in the body, being aware perhaps of any tension in the body, experiencing the body as a mass of sensations rather than shed loads of opinions I've got about my body. No, it just feels like it does. There's pressure, there's movement in the body, there's warmth or cold. There's saliva in the mouth. Notice these sorts of pretty rudimentary characteristics of experiencing the body. Be aware of what's going on in the mind as well. Notice that when we're practicing meditation, we are not our mood. We're aware of the mood. There's a mood. Notice it. Label it. Oh, it's like that tonight. It's like that. It's happy. It's rapturously joyous. It's darn depressed and black and angry. Just notice that. That's good practice. That's good mindfulness practice. And then if we use a meditation object, pick it up and use it. Following the breath, the mind wanders back to the breath. Sensations in the body, notice them. And when the mind wanders, bring the attention back to how the body physically feels. Physically. A sensation here, a stretch there, a bit of pressure somewhere else. A mantra, Buddha, peace, may I be well, may others be well. Listening to the sound of the silent mind, even when somebody is talking to you. There's that background sound. Even when I am talking, there's that background sound. Pushing a bead along on the mala beads. Physically feeling and pushing. And the next one. And the next one. And then when the mind wanders, just notice that. There we go again. We're just being a witness to our habits, our habitual patterns of thinking. Just notice that. When we notice it, of course, we're not it. We're the naturalist observing one aspect of our nature. We notice, and we let go and redirect the attention to whatever it is we use as our meditation object. Please just remember there's no judgment involved in nature study. Not at all. during a period of meditation, it's quite okay to, if you need to adjust the posture, please do that. Have a little wriggle, get another, set the body up again. It's fine. And maybe bring the attention back to the body as well. Just how we're doing, don't, just check it out. Getting a bit too tense? Relax. Relax. Or perhaps pretty drowsy. Getting a bit drowsy? Maybe need to get a bit more energy. Pay a little bit more attention to the posture. Wriggle around, get a more upright posture. If we're really drowsy, we'll sit with the eyes open. Closing the eyes and like following the breath, that can be just what the tired body needs at the end of the day, but it ain't meditation, Put a bit more energy into the body. Maybe breathe deeper for a while. Get a bit more oxygen on board. This is when it's quite good to stand up, actually. Or if you've got the space, do a bit of walking meditation. So, good idea, just to periodically just check the body out. How's it doing? Not trying to get anywhere, so it's not, the effort is often stepping back from making a lot of effort. It's just, okay, it's like this. Relax, relax. So relaxing is another, physically relaxing is another aspect of letting go, isn't it? But attention, let go, relax. Going to sleep, inject a bit of more purpose into our practice. Why are we doing this anyway? Why are we doing this? Maybe even bring to mind the dukkha, which got us into practicing Buddhism or interest in Buddhism in the first place. Just a little reminder. That may give us a little kick to not to go to sleep. And then when we find ourselves, thoughts like, how long is this session going to last? That's just a thought. Okay. There's uncertainty there. You notice that. Back to the breath. Let go. Back to the meditation object. And we're gradually learning to use this practice, this skill of letting go, noticing and letting go in all manner of situations, just by sitting here this evening. What's the time? Just a thought. Is there does that mean we've got to look at the clock? Just notice that. Don't have to. It's my job. Notice and let go. Back to the meditation. We always have it's up to us. Actually, we're in charge here. We're not completely addicted to our habits. Not completely. And maybe this would be the time to pick up a bit of metta practice, loving kindness practice, particularly if the mind has got a bit dull. Been using the breath, for example, getting a bit sort of soggy, dull, to give us a bit more purpose. Wish ourselves well, wish others well. May I be well, may I be happy, may I be free from all stress and anxiety. May others be well, happy, free from all stress and anxiety, free from suffering. And the others obviously include people we really feel grateful towards, like, love, people who've helped us, given us good advice. All of us here. On the in-breath, may I be well. On the out-breath, may all other beings be well and happy, free from suffering. Like to I've got one message coming through in the chat, which I'll come to in just a moment. And like Wongdu, to give everybody the opportunity to unmute. I just want to say a few words about the weekend's entertainment. You may have noticed that there's a coronation on Saturday. And I mean, just a few sort of thoughts on all of that. Look, as a meditator, it's quite interesting just to notice one's own mind in a situation like this, because a lot of people are indifferent about it. A lot of other people are critical about it, and they might want to protest about it. And other people, in the house opposite me, they've got flags up and all the rest of it. And I just find it very interesting to watch one's own mind as we switch around, change opinions and all that. And it reminds me actually of something that happened quite a few years ago. And this was at the Buddhist Society, and a little box was discovered that purported to contain some relics of the historical Buddha. And what happened when the Buddha died? The body was cremated, and then the remains that were left behind after the cremation were then distributed between, I don't know, family and this group and that group and the other group, and they'd revere them, respect them, and they'd build a stupa around about over these remains, these relics. And then 2,000 years later, archaeologists would excavate them and find these, and that was quite interesting. So there was this little box, quite interesting to look at it. So a little box, and in this little box, which purported to come from, it purported to come from one of the well-known stupas, where some of these relics might have gone. Anyway, there's this box, and you're looking at it, and I have no idea what the relics from an enlightened Buddha, fully enlightened Buddha, look like. I honestly do not know. But what you see is perhaps things that one look a little bit like glass patterns, pretty glass. Some things that might look like little pearls, other little shapes that, well, I don't know. And it's very interesting just to watch one's own mind in that situation, because relics of the Buddha, these are incredibly sacred objects which I've just got in this box in my hand. Wow, absolutely fantastic. And then the other side of me is going, oh, this is just superstition. No, come on, get real. And as a practitioner, my mind just notices what the mind is doing. Oh, that's like this. It's like that. Like this. It's like that. And that's to me, that's what I find myself doing in situations like at the weekend. Wow, what a spectacle, Or what a farce. You just notice the mind moving around like that. At least that's the way I'd encourage us. We all have our preferences and all that, but just notice the way the mind responds to these sorts of situations. What is interesting is is not so much events on Saturday or whether one's a monarchist or Republican or whatever, but the Buddha gave a lot of teachings on the desirable qualities of leaders, of kings and whatnot, and just to reflect that whatever we might think about events on Saturday, what really matters is the quality of the individual involved. Royal virtues, and go online and look it all up. But essentially, there's no surprise as to what virtues the Buddha encouraged amongst kings and other rulers who asked for his advice. Essentially setting a good example, being a good Buddhist, whatever that means, but qualities like generosity, being concerned for the welfare of your subjects, and altruistic, putting your duties before what you'd really like to do yourself, that sort of thing. and honesty and integrity sort of matters, and not being arrogant, being kind of quite gentle in your attitude, and being able to practice self-control, not sort of indulging in a lot of stuff, or flying off the handle, getting angry, and being patient, actually, hanging in there under difficult circumstances and taking a lot of criticism and all that sort of stuff. That's very interesting. So, I mean, the message is, to me, it's like, well, whatever I feel about, the institution of the monarchy and everything that goes with it on Saturday in particular, it's like, well, what matters is the quality of the character with a crown on his head. That's what really matters. That's enough of that. Right. Questions and discussion, all the rest of it. So somebody has written to me and is asking, wondering what I thought about the practice of, it's two things. Hang on, I think something. Yes. I thought I saw it. Great. I've now got two things in the box. Right. Somebody says, I sometimes wonder what's the difference between metta practice and saying a prayer. That's interesting. Metta practice and saying a prayer. And metta practice, if you don't know, is developing. I touched on this earlier on. Is cultivating goodwill in one's heart towards oneself and towards others. May I be well, may others be well. And actually meaning it. It's a heartfelt wish. Is that a prayer? Yeah, maybe it is a prayer. I don't know. We can call these things whatever we like. It's close to me. It's as close to a prayer as I get as a Buddhist. But the difference is this. And there again, what I did at lunch, just before lunch today, was I went round to the local Baptist church. Well, there's a lovely lady there who's kind of encouraging Christian mindfulness. I just wanted to support her. And from that perspective, from a Christian perspective, there's somebody suffering out there, and I'm going to ask God, may, dear God, please make that person well. Someone's praying to God for the well-being of somebody else. And as a Buddhist, I'm just wishing it with all my heart. May I be well, and may you be well as well. A big get well soon message from me. It's just, it just does not involve God, as simple as that. I think that's the difference. From my point of view, that's the difference. But the metta practice in this sense of wishing all beings on the planet and through the universe, peace and all the rest of it. If you want to call it a prayer, you can. Words, right? But I think, in terms of actual practice, I'm not praying to God for this. I am praying for it directly myself. There you go. That's what I think. What's the next one? I've lost it. Hang on. No, I lost it again. Here we go. Okay. Scrolling down. What? Okay. So what I think about the practice of choiceless awareness. I think that's what we're doing. I think that's another way of talking about mindfulness. Just awareness, and stuff comes into the mind, and we don't choose what comes into the mind, but we do choose just what we do with it. And the idea is to be aware of it and let go of it. So, and the choiceless bit is, it's a happy thought, it's an unhappy thought. Positive emotion, negative emotion. Now, I've got my preferences, there's no doubt about that. But from the point of view of meditation practice, notice it, let go of it. Notice it, let go of it. Maybe I want to cultivate the good stuff, like loving kindness. But choiceless awareness is just noticing what's coming into the mind without any judgment. No judgment involved in that. I mean, there again, I think that's interesting. And that hand's gone up from Mark. I'll be with you in a bit. There again, that's an interesting difference between, if you like, secular mindfulness practice and what we're doing as Buddhists. Secular mindfulness practice, you want to get rid of all the nasty stuff. Often people, quite reasonably, pick up mindfulness as a useful way of coping with negative mind states like depression. Great, that's good. But actually, we're training ourselves to let go of some of the things which are pleasant as well. Oh yeah, it's nice. Let go of it. That's choiceless awareness, isn't it? It's just whatever comes into the mind, you just notice it. Let go of it during a period of meditation. Mark, you have your hand up. Can you unmute?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you. I put my hand up because I wasn't sure if you
Yeah,
had questions in your class. So it was me who asked the question about choiceless awareness.
Okay.
And I was just really interested in this idea of, rather than focusing attention on one particular thing, whether it's the breath or sensation in the body or whatever, of actually just being aware of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what I meant by choiceless awareness. I mean, do you think that's a valid practice, or do you think that's just a bit too sort of scattered and unfocused?
No, I think it's that's what this is all about. I mean, the only reason we use a meditation object like the breath or a mantra or whatever, there's just like a stabilizer, really. But if you don't need a stabilizer, if the water, it's like if the water's not choppy and the mind is quite quiet, you don't need that. You just sit there. As I say, I always remember what somebody said. You just go into a room, sit down 15 minutes and see what happens. Just like that. And all sorts of things come into the mind and you notice that. But one lets go of it. It just comes in and it goes. One's choicelessly aware of what's going through the mind. And maybe you don't need a meditation object to do it. I mean, I think just to do it, you come to meditation first off, and you're just going to sit there and just see what happens. I mean, that sounds pretty good in principle, but it's very easy to get caught up in stuff, isn't it? Not least, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be doing? Which, of course, is just another thought. But it's quite useful to have a meditation object so that I can either think what I'm supposed to be doing, or I can just be aware of the sensation of the breath. But if you like, you're starting at the end of the story. So there, whatever comes into the mind, you let go of it. Sure, of course. And this is getting back to this position of there's the mind and the contents of the mind. And the analogy I often use is going to the movies. There's all the action on the screen, all the soundtrack, and blah, 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 and characters doing this, that, and the other. And we tend to forget the screen. It's as simple as that. None of this would, this all depends on the supportive nature of the screen behind it. So I think we're sort of taking the position of being the screen and watching the movie, which is the story of me, essentially, being played out on the screen. Oh, yeah. But we're gradually moving back from being fixated on, being terribly attached to the contents of the mind, to being aware that behind all of this is just awareness itself. Just awareness. Choiceless awareness. Are there any other questions? Well, I haven't got any others in chat. I don't think. I may have missed something. Anything? Does anybody want to talk about other meditation objects that they find handy? Now, again, I'm sort of. Hang on. I'm getting more of so if somebody else sticks up a hand with a chance I can see. No, very few of us have got cameras on. But if anybody wants to just ask or make a comment, actually, please do. Yes, Darren. Unmute, please, Darren.
There we go. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. I just wanted to say thank you very much for the explanation at the beginning. As a complete beginner, I found that explanation of meditation objects very handy. So thank you very much for that.
Good. Well, thanks. I mean, I hope it's useful. The message is, you know, there are various options out there, but equally, one has to. What one should not do is flip around indiscriminately. You've got to work. You've got to stick with something and try it to see how it works. And I mean, I'm not even going to say for how long, but try it and see. Give it a fair chance. The attitude in Buddhist practice is very much suck it and see, but you've got to sort of suck it and get the flavor of it, and then stick with it if you like the taste of it. Or maybe I should try something else for another 6 months or whatever. Good. And then again, I mean, it's a good antidote. I think we all sort of go through phases of sort of getting very dull, and this isn't going anywhere. There again, this is all mental stuff. So, I mean, you know, the cold turkey choiceless awareness is just notice it and letting go. But maybe we need a bit more help, you know, and that's why a shift in meditation object is very helpful. I mean, that's how I really personally, though again, all I can talk about is my personal experience. I found that I suddenly came across metta practice, and that really, perhaps not surprisingly, you know, brightened up my practice enormously. It's a very bright practice, you know, wishing yourself all the best and, you know, all the rest of it. That's great. And I found that very kind of invigorating, actually.
Yeah, I like the sound of that one, I must admit.
Well, do it.
I will give it a go, I promise you.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments at all? Anything else at all? Let's see. No, nothing else has come through, I think, in the chat box. In which case, thank you very much for coming. Glad some of you found this useful. Keep up the good work. And hope to see you next week. Take care. Oh, and above all, thank you to Wongdu, who's behind the scenes making all this happen. So there again, thanks everybody. Take care and see you next week, I hope.